Hey there, and welcome to Beyond Sunday at Seymour Heights, a podcast created to go beyond the Sunday service experience, exploring some of the deeper questions of our faith, and offering additional content from behind the scenes and from the cutting room floor. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Paul Danis from Live It Ministries. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're actually going to be doing a 2-week series, and we're going to look at living out our vision of passionately pursuing Jesus beyond Sunday. And so, Paul, first, I know that it seems like you guys are always adding to your ministry, and people might not know who you are or what the ministry is. So could you give us like a 30-second or minute elevator speech of what Live It Ministries is?
Okay. Well, thank you for asking that question, because most people think we're a thrift store. We have a thrift store,
Right.
But that's not just what we do.
Right.
So first of all, Live It Ministries is over 14 years old.
Wow.
Started in Sevier County and really is a Sevier County ministry. So
I did not realize it's been 14 years. That's crazy.
Years, yeah, as of January. So we started with a program called Army of One, which is where we identify needs in the community. So we work a lot with the fire department or police departments or home health agencies, churches, anybody who sees people in need. They refer them to us. We go out and we talk to them and get to know them. We look at their finances. But most of the time they're calling because they can't get in and out of their house safely. Mm-hmm. Their electricity doesn't work, their roof leaks, something physically is the problem, and they're not living in a safe condition.
Right.
They're also over 60 years old. So we typically, the Word of God says to take care of the widows and the orphans. That's really the focus. So we started there, and then we've gone to the My Ride Sevier County program, which is a great place for folks to, if they're not sure about how to serve, this is a great place to go into. And it's where a volunteer uses their own car. We have this awesome computer program where they can see all the rides that are necessary. We kind of call it like volunteer Uber.
Right. I was like, it sounds like a rideshare program.
It is, yeah. And they see the need. Miss Smith needs to go to the doctor at this time. They pick her up at her home, take her to the doctor, take her back home, or they can go to the grocery store or the pharmacy. But it's a huge need, and right now we have a waiting list for people who need to ride.
Waiting for drivers.
Yeah, we need drivers.
Wow.
Then we have the coffee house,
right?
Which is itself a ministry, and that really is out of the need to get people together, right. Socializing. It probably wasn't the best timing when we opened it up. We opened it up in September of 2020.
Right.
Having a coffee house that was focused on socializing.
Right.
Older folks.
Amidst COVID.
Amongst COVID. But God has blessed it, and it's doing great.
Awesome. And I know that was probably a little bit over a minute, but it's my fault because I interrupted you, and so that's okay. But you also have the nature trail back there, and I know we're going to dig into that a little bit further. But I know that you guys really are making a big impact, and it's fun to remind me, again, that it's 14 years old, but second, where you all started from with the Army for One, because that's, of course, working with the fire department as one myself, I know the people's houses we go into, and so when they allow us to share that information with you all, it's a relief to know that you guys are going to be there, to pick that up, and so that's really encouraging. So you've led into a little bit, but what are ways that we can plug in and help the ministry at Live It?
Okay. Well, the Army of One, what we do is we're looking for people who have skill sets, not just carpentry or plumbing or whatever, but who want to get together, maybe a small group, and go out, mow lawns.
Okay.
Just really easy stuff. So
you don't have to be a master carpenter or master electrician.
Plumber, electrician, right. No.
Anybody can do this.
If you are, that's fine.
Right. I'm sure you can find work for them too.
We can. But ultimately, everybody and anybody can be involved.
Awesome. So you really have a broad spectrum. And so anybody, do you see families come and serve too? Do you see?
Yes. And we love that when we see families.
Yeah.
Train them up in the way that they should go. So getting young people, and we don't have a minimum age.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to bring a 2 or 3 year old along.
If they can pick up trash, they can pick up trash, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So you did talk about the Bridge Coffee House a little bit, and personally, I enjoy going over there and catching up with friends or having meetings. And we actually, the church is actually using it coming up for our trivia night. We've done that a couple of times now, and it's an exciting use of your space. But what you said, the thrift store is on the front end. A lot of people that go by on Chapman Highway might not know that the Bridge Coffee House is behind that as a part of the same building. But maybe give us the vision for what the coffee house is, as well as maybe a little bit more on how people can plug in that space.
Sure. Well, we serve the older population and we see them in their homes. And the one thing that we see almost all the time is the reason they're in the situation they're in is because they're lonely and isolated. So we've been working with lonely and isolated people for 14 years. And then in 2018, Cigna Healthcare released a study on loneliness and isolation. And it was a pandemic before COVID was.
Right.
And so we thought, well, this study is probably going to point out what we already know, that the age group that's the loneliest and most isolated is over 60. It's the older folks.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Huh.
It wasn't. It just blew our minds. It actually, the number one age group that's the most lonely and isolated is the 18 to 25-year-olds. And I think a lot of that is because community to them is on the end of a scrolling on a phone. So we started to look around and said, how can we bring these two lonely groups of people together? And the thing that is the great connector is coffee.
Right.
Everybody loves coffee.
Yeah.
So
especially good coffee, which you all do that well.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Well, and so the coffee house concept was born. We took 2,500 square feet of our building and made a 2-level thing because we wanted to have kind of a meeting room. We call it the upper room.
That's probably one of the most popular places for people to land to. It seems like that's the coveted spot.
It is. And every day we have folks up there.
Yeah.
And occasionally we have to reserve it. You can reserve areas in a coffee house. But we purpose to try to bring groups of people together. And we love it when meetings are there, or like when the church is coming out to do trivia night. Those are just sweet things for us. We love that.
And the beauty of it is when I go in there, when the church goes in there, and we buy coffee, you have more than coffee, first of all. There's a lot of things over there to get, snacks and food and dinner, all good stuff. But the money that goes into the coffee house goes to support the ministry.
It goes to fund the work that we do in the community.
And that's like, what an amazing tent making thing in the midst of what you're already doing. It's amazing. So
we have signs out there that say "Coffee with a Mission."
Yeah, one of my favorite things though is when you walk in the door and just to the right, on top of the trash cans, is the little sign that, and you're going to say this better than I do, but basically says, "Hey, I'm up for a conversation."
Right.
So what is it?
So that we actually we found out that in England, in the UK, they did what they called chatter and natter tables. So we actually borrowed that from them. But a social worker went into a coffee house. She had a baby, nobody to talk to. She saw an older person, interestingly enough, and a younger person sitting at a table, different tables by themselves. And so she said, "Would you all just come and we can all hang out and drink our tea?" Of course, in England, together. So they did, and that started this concept of chatter and natter tables.
So they were not family. They did not know each other before. Just is a place to create community.
It's just a place to create. And
that's awesome.
So what they did is they had a table that just had a placard on it that said, "If you sit here at this table, you're open to conversation with somebody that you don't know." Well, what we did is we kind of took it, we call them chit-chat tables, and we have plaques. As soon as you come in, like you said, you look to the right, you grab one of those, take it to your table, drink your coffee, and that's telling everybody that you're open to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And that's another way to volunteer, just to be open to talk to somebody.
So if you're already going to drink coffee, maybe it is a great place to go and do your devotion time. But maybe you're going to go over there, take your Bible, take a book you want to read, get a coffee, and put one of those on your table. What a great ministry opportunity to talk to somebody that may just really need somebody to unload,
Yeah.
and talk to.
And we're walking by them every day. They're all over the place.
Yeah. You're just creating a space for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So we talked about kind of what Live It has. It is a lot. That's why it's Live It Ministries, because there's a lot going on, but there's a lot more coming. You have some cool stuff on the horizon at Live It, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, besides getting people plugged in to serve with you. But this is big.
It is.
And how God showed up is big.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us what's on the horizon?
Well, I've heard a pastor say one of the most dangerous things to do is to say, "Lord, use me."
Yes.
And so we've been asking him to do that, no matter what. So we have a lot of groups come in during the spring, summer, and fall. That's kind of our season of serving. We serve all the time, but that's when a lot of folks. We live in the Smoky Mountains. A lot of churches want to come and visit. There's a lot of things going on. So they come to us and we get them involved in serving people in the community. Well, when you have 200 kids a week coming in, you can't put those 200 kids at a widow's house.
Right, and these are college age?
Yes. Actually, the groups are, from 12 to 18.
Okay, yeah, you don't want to overload grandma's house with teenagers.
Not a good idea. Yeah. And so we found out there was this park behind us. It was called was called the Seymour Community Citizens Park.
Okay.
And so we would just go there and say, hey, can we do this? And you mentioned that we had a trail. Mm-hmm. There's a nature trail. We put a nature trail in with using these kids, and they did an amazing job. Took down trees. It's a great little place to just.
Yeah, and there's a little stream that goes by there, and it's just a peaceful. It's not like a hike. It's just a peaceful walk.
Yeah,
just to get out and talk to the Lord and hear from Him. But the plans, though, really extend the trail.
Yeah. Well, and what happened is after doing this for years, we got a call from the nonprofit that ran it, wanted to meet us, and we thought, oh, we're in trouble. We did something wrong. They came in and they said, we've watched you for the last 5 years and what you do in the community. This park was given to this community, Seymour,
right,
to serve the people, and we feel that it could do better, and so we're going to give that to Live It. So we've taken over the park.
That's like a jaw-dropping moment, though. You're like, hold on, let me pick up my bottom lip. Like, okay, God, I don't know what you're doing here.
What are we going to do with a 15-acre park?
Right. And so what are you going to do?
So it's we are going to start to put in things that aren't in Seymour, like pickleball.
Okay.
Pickleball is a big deal.
It's a big thing right now.
The pavilion is tired. It's old. It needs a new roof, and it has bathrooms. But our plans are to put in a larger metal building.
Okay.
More of a place where we can have classrooms and a place where these groups that come in can eat,
right,
and pray, and come together. A new playground. The playground that's there it's one that you may find in somebody's backyard.
Right.
And this is a public park.
And so a real commercial set.
Set. And there's 2 soccer fields, and we're going to make the parking larger, and then a beautiful gazebo for outdoor entertainment.
Yeah. And the creek runs the whole thing.
Yes. And then we're going to extend the walking trail to be about 1.5 miles.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And with this, it's not free. And so I'm sure that's one of the ways is you're always looking for people to support the ministry to help this happen. But is there anything specific you'd want to share as far as how we could plug in with that?
Yeah. So what we've done is we've created a website, and it's very simple. Hopefully it's simple to get to. It's SeymourPark.org.
Yeah, we're going to try. My tech man, Jaden, over here, is going to try to put it up on the screen. So hopefully you guys will get to see what we're looking at. But it is SeymourPark.org. I would say you can't get much more straightforward than that, right?
It's SeymourPark.org.
Yeah, so there's a few things on here. Of course, they can donate. And what hits me immediately is, with the little logo you have, it's not screaming Live It Ministries. It's saying Seymour. Right,
Yes.
It's a community park still, right?
Right.
That's the head behind it. But I'm going to scroll down here to this map because there's a lot to take in here, and I'm going to try to point it out with my mouse a little bit. But we see the coffee house and stuff on the top here, And it looks like you're putting maybe like cutting in a new road to get down to the park.
Yes, it's a new old road.
A new old road. Okay.
Right. Years ago, the county had a road that went from Chapman Highway back to the park, and it just got lost in time.
Yeah.
So we're going to reopen that. So folks have another access, and they can just drive right by the coffee house.
That's a good little advertising too, right?
Yeah,
Say,
yeah.
hey, why don't you catch a cup of coffee on the way
Sure.
out?
Drop the kids
That's good.
off for the soccer game and come back and get a latte.
Yeah. See, this is going to be good. This is going to be
Yeah.
good. And then I know earlier you were talking about extending the main parking lot down here, but of course the pavilion is huge, and I think a big part of it is a lot of people don't know about this, and so a big thing that people could do to help with this is to get the word out. Hey, this is what's coming. This is what they're doing, and to really get active down in the space. It looks like you have two big soccer fields that they could use, and so I could see tournaments or practices and stuff happening down there too, and the gazebo, and then of course you see the trail kind of wrapping around this whole thing, and so that's it's really big. When you look at how big the Live It thrift store and coffee house is compared to all of it,
Yeah.
it might seem a little bit daunting, but it's exciting to see what God is going to be doing in that space.
Yeah, it's 15 acres. The Live It property prior to this is probably about 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and then we're going to be building some bunk houses to house a lot of these groups. Many of them come, but they don't have a reasonable place to stay, or
Okay.
they have to get a cabin in Pigeon Forge. In a lot of these churches, it's youth groups. They're on a budget.
Yeah, so if you could support them in that way too, they're there.
We're gonna need a lot of volunteers to help us in the future. So this is also a great place that helps the community directly,
Yeah,
and we need you.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. It's exciting to see, of course, too, and so I appreciate that. I do want to take a personal switch, if it's okay. Part of the podcast is to see how God is working in people's lives and getting into God's Word and cracking the Bible open, or if it's a Bible app, or I personally like to listen to the Bible, and so there's different ways. But Paul, what has God been saying to you in His Word lately?
Well, thank you for asking that. I appreciate that question. We're raising 2 of our grandchildren. Our daughter 2 years ago was killed in a car accident on Chapman Highway, and so we do a morning devotion. And this morning was probably one of the most poignant when it was talking about Jesus said in Acts. Paul was referring to it. He said, "It's a greater blessing to give than it is to receive." Mm-hmm. And so the whole part of Live It and the purpose of Live It is learning that it is a greater blessing when we give of ourselves. So that's probably the thing, is teaching our grandchildren. Raising them up in the way that they should go is what Proverbs says, and when they get older, they will not depart from it. So, and we're hoping that we'll be able to steward them through the next few years. Our grandson is 16, our granddaughter is 14, and so we have just a few years. But that's probably the thing that we're dealing with the most, is we raise them up in the way that they should go. And it is a greater blessing to give than it is to receive.
Yeah. Well, it's encouraging words just to remind me. That's one of the things we have with our girls is serving others, and they love to do presents for people, like and show love, but to find ways to serve too is important. And I appreciate you being willing to share just about your family dynamics, because again, that was another door that you were not ready for God to open for you to have your grandkids at the house, and so. I know that just the stories I hear about your daughter, but now also your grandkids, and so I know that God's going to bless you in that space. Before we go, I do want to throw another question to you, and that's: do you have any final thoughts you want to share just about the ministry or what's going on?
Well, first of all, this is a great space, and I want to thank Seymour Heights for being a partner of ours for a whole lot of years. Matter of fact, we have several partner churches. Seymour Heights goes back the longest, and
Yeah.
and so and it comes to the coffee house and really helps us out. So. No, I would just like folks to know that we are really excited about all the things that God is doing within Seymour, and whether they plug in with at Livet or at Cross or someplace else here,
Right.
it's really important that we get involved in the kingdom, especially in these days.
And if they've not done it before, they could be a little bit apprehensive.
Yeah,
And it's like you said, they could find easy ways to kind of to plug in and just get used to it,
yeah.
right? But it is such an impactful thing for the community, but it really is an impact on them and their spiritual walk too.
Oh yeah, start slow. Come, go to a coffee house, get a coffee, and put a plaque on your.
I love it. It's a great place to start. It is. So, well, as we wrap up today, if you're looking for ways to live out your faith and passionately pursue Jesus, I do want to encourage you to connect with Paul and his team. Next week, we're going to be talking with Doug Daniels from Cross Food Ministry. And remember, change can start with little moments where we can practice our faith and grow in our relationship with the Lord every day. We look forward to seeing you at church soon, and we'll catch you next time.